If you're watching this live on Twitch, welcome in real time. And if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you. This is the first time I've ever done this for YouTube, so we'll see how this goes. Anyway, today I'm going to be making a lovely recipe I like to call pumpkin bars. This is a traditional recipe in my family, fan favorite around the holiday season, but you can make it any time of year, any day. So we've got two things to make here. We've got the actual pumpkin cake part itself and the cream cheese frosting. So for this recipe, you will need, the recipe says all-purpose flour, but I made this last time with my father, who is gluten-free, and we use this Tanegashima rice flour. So you'll need 2 cups of that for a full batch. This will make a whole sheet cake, by the way. Next up, we're going to need 2 cups of sugar. Also, I got fancy, frickin' raw sugar from the local market, but any sugar is fine. 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of nutmeg, a half teaspoon of salt, a half teaspoon of clove, 1 cup of oil, any oil will do, and finally 1 can of pumpkin. But I don't have any canned pumpkin because I live in Japan, so I have an actual Japanese pumpkin called a kabocha. Oh, and last but not least, 4 eggs. All right, and then for the cream cheese frosting, that's the simpler one. We're going to need powdered sugar. I literally went to the store and bought all of their powdered sugar. Yes. Butter, cream cheese, and some vanilla. All right, so this is probably one of the easiest recipes I've ever come across because it's literally just mix everything together and throw it in the oven. It doesn't even say mix the dries together before the wets or anything like that. It's just mix everything in a bowl and throw it in the oven. However, we have a problem. In Japan, there's no canned pumpkin, so we have to make our own canned pumpkin. So how are we going to take this actual pumpkin and turn it into something that is good enough to put in this recipe? Well, we're going to have to boil it, and we're going to have to boil it a lot. So let's switch over to the big cooking camera. There we go. So hello, everybody. So what we're going to do is we're going to take out our cutting board, and we're going to take out a big old knife. Unfortunately, I don't have any sharp knives other than this butcher knife. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cut this pumpkin right down the middle. The best way to do this is probably just to stab it, right? You want to be careful when using a knife because they're sharp and they hurt. Pro tip, if you buy a whole pumpkin, it does not rot quickly at all, but as soon as you cut into it, it rots super quickly. So yeah, if you buy half a pumpkin, you're definitely going to want to use it within a week. Before then, probably. It'll start rotting. Okay, but sure enough, look at that. That's more than fine. So, we're going to want to scoop out all the seeds. Now, the seeds you can use to, like, cook other stuff, but we're not going to deal with that today. So we'll just scoop all the guts out. I'm definitely going to be saving some of those for later to plant. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a pot like this. We're going to fill it up with water. Once this starts boiling, then we're going to put the pumpkins in it. You're going to want as big a bowl as possible. Well, probably a bigger bowl than this. This is going to make a whole sheet cake worth of pumpkin bars. I'm going to be using this cake pan right here. It is thicker. You can get wider ones. However, I do not have that big of an oven. I actually like to put the liquids in first with pumpkin bars because what happens is if you put the solids in first, even though they're listed first on the recipe, all the solids will start sticking to the sides of the bowl and then you have to scrape them off and it's a whole big pain. So I put the liquids in first. It does not matter. I have not noticed a big significant difference. I am not an expert though, but it's all the same. So some liquids. Let's open up the eggs. We'll put the eggs in first. And the reason I'm putting the eggs in first is because I want to be able to beat the eggs properly and make sure that they're all beaten up before we add anything else. So we got 4 eggs here. Now one tip I have is you can use the eggshell itself to scoop out other eggshells. It's a relatively reliable way. If you try to use your finger, problem is it'll like squish away. There we go. So you don't want any eggshells in there. It's not going to ruin the recipe or everything, but it is going to mess with the mouthfeel. Actually, funny thing about mouthfeel, the original recipe suggests you add raisins and nuts. I do not like this at all. They give it a very bad mouthfeel. The crunchy nuts don't help at all. And the raisins kind of crunch too. They make this like, I hate it. Oh, the water's boiling, so we'll turn that down. to just keep it where it's at a normal boil. And then just put the whole pumpkin right in there. There we go. So, fun fact. I have never used this before. This was a Christmas present. There we go. So theoretically, if I turn this on, I can just mix these eggs out. Look at that! It's a mixer. It's a hand mixer. Oh my god. This is magical. A cup of oil. A whole cup of oil. Ugh. Drink up. All the way. 1 cup of oil. We're just going to mix that up. It doesn't need to be crazy. Doesn't need to be crazy. You just need to mix it up a little bit. Those are actually the only 2 liquid ingredients other than the pumpkin. So the pumpkin obviously is going to go in last because we're going to be waiting for that to cook. All right, so we're going to fill this thing up all the way. That's a cup. And that's 2 cups of flour. I have the power, the flour power. So this is going to be a little bit more of a doughy consistency than you would expect because, of course, we have yet to add the pumpkin. Yeah, the pumpkin's going to add a ton of moisture, so I'm not too worried about that. But the hand mixer might get a little stressed out. Yeah, this is basically brown sugar. And this is just going to, it's going to give you a little bit more of a molasses flavor. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing it with regular granulated sugar. I'm just extra because, you know what? This is local made brown sugar, or black sugar as they call it. So there's the sugar. Boop. All right, so baking powder, 2 teaspoons. All right, 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Boom. 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start my oven. You're going to want to have 350 degrees, so I'm going to preheat my oven real quick. Be right back. I'm back. 1 teaspoon of baking soda. All right, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Yummy. Oh, smell that. But be careful, though. Don't freaking snort cinnamon. There we go. That's 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Okay. A whole teaspoon of nutmeg. Teaspoon of nutmeg. And a half teaspoon of salt and cloves. Each. All right, pumpkin. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our trusty dusty knife. Woo! Careful. We're going to stab it. Ooh, that's soft. That's soft. Heck yeah, that's soft. Nice. And here's why I did not bother trying to peel this pumpkin beforehand. You can do that. It's a pain in the butt. But once you've cooked it, the skin just falls right off. So I'm just pouring it into a sieve right now. All right, that's still hot. What we're going to do, we're going to move this off to the side. So we've got our pumpkin. So we need 2 cups of this. So here we have some guts left over. You can throw the guts in. I don't know if they're like more or less flavorful. I'm just going to err on the side of caution here. Try to kind of scoop them out with this. You know what? I have a spoon. Spoons are made for scooping. All right, well, we're just going to set this in the sink for now. I'll figure out what I want to do with it later. Okay, so we're going to have to be really careful. Okay, that's flicking all over the place. Okay, so there we go. We're going to set this aside for now. We're going to need to prepare the pan. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to grease the pan. Take your stick of butter and just draw all over the pan. All right, so there we go. Draw in on any of the other shiny spots that are left. All right, so we're just going to do that. People ask me, can you eat this? There's raw eggs in it. Well, you know, I know there's raw eggs, but I don't freaking care. This stuff is good. This stuff is so good. I literally do not care. Salmonella is worth it. I had delusions of grandeur that would look really cool, like me sliding the cake in and then out. Oh, frick. 20 minutes. I should probably set the timer, shouldn't I? Next up, what we're going to do is we're going to make the frosting while we're at it. I'm just going to put the butter and the cream cheese near the oven. Be frickin' careful. The last time I did this, I just left it there and it melted all over my oven. Hopefully not much in the internal compartments, but it did. So I bought literally all the powdered sugar my grocery store had, which is these 2 things. That's it. So what the plan is, we're going to use these And then we're going to kind of cheat. We're going to fill in the rest with regular granulated sugar. Now, here's the thing. If you do this, there is a chance your cream cheese frosting will come out all crunchy. Because when you mix these up, the granulated sugar doesn't really dissolve so much in, or the butter and the cream cheese so much as it is just suspended there. The more large granules you have, the higher the likelihood that, yeah, it won't work out for you. So we're going to grab another bowl. So there's only 4 ingredients in this frosting. It's awesomely simple. It's powdered sugar, cream cheese, butter, and vanilla. No milk. You can add milk to try to kind of help it along if it's a little too thick. All right, so there's 1 cup. We need how many? 3 of these? Okay, 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I eyeball it. I don't know about you guys. I'm a vanilla eyeballer. 1 teaspoon. You know, more vanilla, not a bad thing. Not a bad thing at all. So the cream cheese is all softened. That's cool. Let's just leave that there. Then it's supposed to get all the way down to -16. Stay. That's scary. If you want to do more butter than is called, it will be thinner. But be careful because, of course, if it's too thin, it will just run all over. You don't want to put the frosting on after it's right out of the oven because it will melt the frosting and then it'll just drain everywhere and it's a disaster. But yeah, here's the pumpkin bars. A little bit browner on the top than I would like. Usually I don't cook it this much, but this will be just fine. If you see, especially when it's got a big pan like that, look around the side. You can see how pulled away from the sides it is, and that's because I properly greased the pan. If I flip this thing, it would probably just flop right out all in one piece. However, I'm not going to do that because I have no reason to. There we go. Pour all that butter in there. Nice and slow. Mix that all in. Nice and gooey. Look at that. Nice and golden from all the butter. So that looks like a nice consistency. Ooh, tastes heavenly. You might have to wait a little bit longer before you can put it on here. You want it to be completely room temperature before you put this on. If you try to speed up a little bit at all and try to do it while it's still warm, it'll just melt. I might just do it, not because I'm impatient. No, because I want to show you guys for educational purposes only. All right, dare I say, it's time. So, now for the big reveal. Look at that. Ain't that lovely? But. How does it taste? That's the most important question. It doesn't look that great. I mean, it looks great. But it doesn't look, the presentation isn't that great. Again. Drum roll, please. You know, easily that comes out. That pops right out of the pan. Oh my god. Oh, frick. You didn't see that. Okay. Woo! Woohoo! That's some good stuff. Ugh. So, that came out lovely. I'm actually rather surprised to how pumpkin-y it tastes. Pleasantly surprised, given that I'm not using canned pumpkin, which is what I'm traditionally used to. I boiled an actual Japanese pumpkin. So the flavor isn't that much different. Which I'm very surprised at. It's very similar. The other thing that's pleasantly surprising is the fact that I used this rice flour. So I used this rice flour that I got at a local market. Pretty sure it's made on the island. So the cool thing about that is, because I didn't use bread flour, this is gluten-free. This is entirely gluten-free. So if you have anybody that is gluten intolerant, give it to them. Yes, folks, if Carl can do this in a cramped little Japanese kitchen with supplies available only in Japan, you can too!